First things to have a
Good
seat.
evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the pre-board meeting where we have we're going to do a recognition of a special group of students.
You go first.
We have our junior ROTC from South High School. I'm going to turn it over to Board Member Ragland to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I am extremely excited to welcome Colonel Allman and the nationally ranked JROTC program from Columbus South High School. This group of students represented us well over the summer in a junior ROTC program in Washington, D.C. They went through several hundred JROTC programs throughout the country, and ended up being ranked 14th out of all of the programs in the country. And as many of you have witnessed when you're over at South, these young people are some of the finest young people that we have in our district. Colonel Allman is their leader, and I'm just exceptionally proud that they would bring their color guard to present before us today, and so that we could properly recognize the work that they have been doing. These young people are scholars. They have the finest character that they could exemplify here, and I am just really pleased to have them with us today. So, Colonel Allman, thank you and your team for joining us, sir.
Thanks, sir. Board members, Dr. Dixon, thank you very much for having us here this evening. It's been a journey for us. I've been with the program about 3 years now. Master Sergeant Zumach has been around since 2016. And this is one of the things that he has been pushing very hard. He's not able to be here tonight because it's his wife's birthday, and well, that would cause a disturbance in the house. We wouldn't want that.
Yes.
But yes, so we've been pushing very hard. We had to look at what we could do really well, and the one thing with all the different things that JROTC offers, the one thing that we could do well is we could do well in academics and leadership. So we decided that that was where we were going to put one of our areas of focus. That paid off for us. We've made it. Past several years, we've made it to the second round of the J-Lab, but never advanced to that third round. This past year, this team right here, they advanced to the third round in the leadership portion of the JROTC Leadership and Academic Bowl, which meant that they got to go to Washington, D.C. on a free trip. They competed against 40 other schools throughout the nation, actually the nation and the world, because we do have Department of Defense dependent schools all overseas, Japan, Germany, Italy, wherever we have large concentrations of military families. So they all come into Washington, D.C., and it's a 3 or 4 day competition. So this team that you see right before you here, we are the #1 leadership team in the state of Ohio. We are the #1 leadership team in our brigade, which consists of Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Michigan, and I always list Michigan last for obvious reasons.
That's right.
So we are the #1 team in our brigade, and we finished 11th in the nation. So of the 1,696 Army JROTC programs throughout the United States and the world, this team right here is number 11. So we are extremely proud. And we're looking forward to more success with this program. We continue to build each year, and we really appreciate the support of the school boards, the administration, and I know Ms. Adair, she follows us on Facebook and shares our stuff all the time. And the first time,
Become a fan.
yeah, the first
#1 fan.
Yeah, the first time she did it, I about lost my mind. So, but it's very nice to be recognized, and I think these students did really well. But I also have to make sure that I pay specific attention to Master Sergeant Zumach, who's my partner. Master Sergeant Zumach, this has been his baby.
Yes.
He is the one who's been shepherding it.
That's right.
He's the one that had them coming in during the summer to do actual practices for the J-Lab. We also had a couple of other teachers, Miss Sarah Halfrish, and she was a chaperone. And then we had Mr. Panday came in, and they helped craft some academic things and some team building things for this team before they went to DC. So it was a real big effort on the part of South High School. But anyway, thank you very much for having us here this evening. We really appreciate it.
And your names?
So go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them what you do.
I am Joel Morin. I'm the Cadet Battalion Commander. I pretty much lead the program, tried to progress the view of the program and build it up even more.
I am the Command Sergeant Major, Elizabeth for Latin. I am in command of color guard drill. Mostly, I'm his assistant.
Second in command.
Yeah, second
Yeah.
in command.
I am the first sergeant of Bravo Company. I basically make sure everyone is squared away, like rosters for my company commander. That's about it.
And Abby down here, Abby's one of our shy ones. She's a platoon sergeant in one of our companies. So Abby Hutton down there at the end. So yeah, they all have leadership positions. Joel is one of our LET 4s. We have 7 LET 4s this year. And then the rest of the crew here, they're all LET 3s, which LET stands for Leadership Education Training. So they're LET 3s. We have 10 LET 3s this year. So a lot more than when I showed up. So that's pretty good. That's good stuff.
That's right.
Good stuff. Yeah, Mr. Paul.
What is your next step? So is it the Citadel, West Point? What's the next step?
For Joel?
Yeah, absolutely, for all of these youngsters.
Well, I actually just went in for an ROTC interview with PMS, I believe is what they're called.
Yeah.
And now I have all my documents in, and I'm going to be boarded on the 18th. They'll check over my scholarship for the ROTC 4-year scholarship on the 18th. So, yeah, hope I get in.
And Elizabeth's a senior too, and she just went through the same process for applying for an Army JROTC scholarship, or an Army ROTC scholarship, excuse me.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Well, we want to take some photos with you, and we have some awards, and then we want to make sure you have enough time to get ready to do the colors at the beginning of our meeting. So, Board Member Ragland and the rest of the board, let's come around with the group.
Why don't you guys step up here and then turn around so they have a flag in the background. Okay.
Colorful shoes. You're like me.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. This is going to go on display first thing tomorrow. Thank you, ma'am.
So we're little people. So how do you want to,
Oh, I don't.
we're short people, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
The gentlemen are tall, but the women, we're a little challenged.
Oh, he's doing Colonel Lemon on the end.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You guys are good. You just scoot in.
Yeah, you scoot in.
Get close. If you can't see the camera, she can't see you. Everybody smile. Come on, nobody laughed at that. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I hope you're proud of yourself. This is a wonderful.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll send you some information.
Proud of you guys.
It's been a while since I saw you, like last year.
No, you weren't there when I came. I talked to the kiddos.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're so busy this year. We have like over 100 cadets this year. We are. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yes, ma'am.
the thing is, what we do is the kids. They,
Yes. What do you need?
we have so
evening, everyone. I am calling the regular business board meeting, the Columbus Board of Education, to order on today, October 5th. Mr. Treasurer, will you please call the roll?
President Adair,
Present.
Ms. Beckerly,
Present.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Cole,
I'm present.
Dr. Pierce,
Present.
Mr. Ragland,
Here.
Vice President Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. It is my honor today to recognize the South High School Junior ROTC Leadership and Academic Bowl Team, who will be presenting the colors and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
March time, march. Left turn, march. Detail, hold. Present, color.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, color. Right turn, march. Forward, march.
Thank you, everyone. We are so very proud of those students who've represented our district nationally, #1 in Ohio, #1 in their battalion, #1 in our hearts. Really. Congratulations, students. Thank you so much. All right, board members, let's look at our agenda this evening. On the agenda tonight, we have no public comment on agenda items. We have a report from our superintendent as well as internal auditor. We're not expecting a report this evening from our treasurer. We have an item on board matters. We have our consent agenda. And we have 3 public comments on non-agenda items. And then no executive session is planned this evening, and then we will adjourn. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Are there any questions, comments, additions to the agenda? Hearing no objections, the agenda is now adopted. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move right down into the superintendent's report. Madam Superintendent, turning to you.
Thank you, President Adair. Tonight, I would like to provide the board and our community with several updates. First, we have national recognitions for certain staff members during the month of October. Today is World Teachers Day, which is held annually on October 5th to celebrate teachers around the globe. This year's theme is Teachers at the Heart of Education Recovery. We know that learning loss is significant due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and our teachers are working tirelessly to address learning recovery for all students. Our teachers have done extraordinary work over the past 2 years, pivoting from in-person to remote learning and back in-person learning amidst a global pandemic. I cannot thank our teachers enough for their continued efforts in our classrooms and in our school buildings as we strive to help all students reach their full potential. This past Saturday was National Custodial Workers Recognition Day. We appreciate and support our custodians who keep our schools and administrative buildings in top condition and running smoothly. Our custodians may be behind the scenes, but their work is front and center in every building. Thank you to all of the hardworking custodians across the district. We value and appreciate the efforts you put forth each day. Next week, October 11th through the 15th, is National School Lunch Week. This program was created in 1962 to provide the importance of a healthy school lunch in a child's life and the impact it has inside and outside of the classroom. We are excited to once again celebrate this week and recognize the hard work of our food services team that they put behind the scenes. These staff members were on the front lines of our pandemic response, providing daily meals to students who were learning remotely. They continue to be a valuable resource in our school buildings, serving breakfast and lunch to thousands of students each day. October is National Principals Month, and this is an opportunity to show how much we appreciate the leadership that principals provide day in and day out in our school buildings. Our principals go above and beyond to foster a positive culture and climate in their schools, ensuring that all students are set up for success. We will be celebrating our amazing principals in a number of ways all month, so I encourage you to keep an eye out for how you can express your appreciation for the dedicated and expertise that our school leaders bring to the district. Last week, we restarted my weekly letter to the community. We will continue to communicate this way moving forward, and I want to share a few highlights with the board tonight, specifically about vaccine clinics, safety and security, and a facilities master plan process. We are partnering with Columbus Public Health to provide dedicated vaccine clinics for CCS staff and students. Columbus Public Health will be stationed at CCS high school locations each Thursday in October from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. to administer booster doses and first doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, as well as the flu shot. Education staff, which includes all CCS employees, are eligible to receive the booster dose immediately, provided they have received the Pfizer vaccine series at least 6 months ago. Columbus Public Health will be at Briggs High School, Columbus Afrocentric, Beechcroft High School, and Linda McKinley STEM Academy. All CCS teachers, staff, and students can access these dedicated clinics regardless of where they work or attend school. No appointment is needed. Students aged 12 or older can access the CCS clinics after school hours from 2:30 to 6 p.m. Students under the age of 18 must have a signed consent form from their parent or guardian to receive the first dose of the vaccine. In addition to the CCS clinic locations, teachers and staff can go to any pharmacy or medical provider who offers the booster dose to receive it. Many schools across the region and throughout the country have faced safety concerns since the start of the new school year. We have had our own share of these concerns related to unsubstantiated threats on social media and disturbances to the school day. We continue to monitor the rise of new TikTok challenges and encourage families to do the same. These challenges range from disruptive to illegal. Even if it's meant to be a joke or social media fodder, we take every incident seriously. The safety and well-being of our students and staff is top priority. We want our young people to understand the seriousness of these types of safety concerns and the disciplinary action and criminal charges that could follow. We also have support teams in place to assist with the social and emotional issues that may lead to the onset of these occurrences. I encourage families to talk with their children about appropriate behaviors in school and in their neighborhoods. As always, I appreciate the support and continued partnership that our school community provides in promoting safe learning environments for all. Facilities Master Plan. The fourth phase of our Facilities Master Plan process is currently underway. During this current anticipate phase, participants are touring 2 CCS school buildings, one recently constructed and another one that is an older construction. Subsequent phases will continue through mid-December. Each step of the process is built to create a consensus of community values and develop a complete and clear understanding of the community's expectations of future learning environments as a part of the facilities master plan. Community input from all stakeholders, staff, students, families, and community members is vitally important. We need your participation to ensure everyone's voice is heard as we work to shape the future of school facilities in Columbus. At our next Board of Education business meeting on October 19th, we will hear a presentation from the Facilities Master Plan team on how we are progressing towards our end goal of a renewed vision for the future of our school buildings. Next, I would like to provide an update on our transportation services. As a reminder to the board, this is the information I provided to you last Friday's weekly report. We continue to experience issues with delayed bus routes due to the nationwide driver shortage. We currently have 620 drivers, but when you consider the leave of absences and pending resignations, we have 557 active drivers who are expected to report to work each day. We have 9 trainees who are taking the road test this week and another 34 people in training. We have 164 applicants who are in the process of obtaining their CDL's permit so that they can begin the training process. As you can see from the data on the screen, we've seen an increase in the number of drivers who call off or are out on leave each day. With an already short staff of qualified drivers, we cannot afford to be even more shorthanded. This has caused routes to be delayed significantly. Our transportation team is working to ensure families receive timely notifications if there are delays in their students' routes. We have sent a letter to the families of transportation eligible students regarding the use of bus bulletin notifications to provide these important alerts. As we mentioned earlier this fall, we are also increasing the staff and capacity of our transportation call center. This will allow us to better address the volume of questions and inquiries that come in. We have already seen a decrease in the average wait time for our call center. Finally, our team is also advocating at the state level for measures that will enable us to provide improved transportation services. This includes the use of vans and additional certification opportunities for trainees. So again, just thank you to our drivers for all that you're doing to make sure our students get to school on time and home. COVID-19 update. The health and safety of our students and staff is of utmost priority. We are continuing to prioritize in-person learning for the social emotional health and academic success of our students while providing a safe learning environment by following and adhering to all public health guidelines for in-person learning. We continue to update our COVID-19 data dashboard on our website each week with new information on positive cases among staff and students and isolation and quarantine numbers by school and by region. As you know, we have partnered with The Ohio State University to track the number of students with COVID, the number that are under quarantine due to exposure, and additional metrics such as visits to the school nurse and daily attendance. This data is reviewed by an expert team each week to ensure that we are not seeing evidence of in-school COVID outbreaks or other concerning patterns. Since the start of the new school year on August 26, we have had a total of 797 positive cases reported among our approximately 47,000 students. This accounts for less than 2% of our total student population. This is consistent with what is happening regarding COVID rates in our community and gives us confidence that the students are able to come to school without significantly increasing their risk of COVID exposure. We are not seeing large numbers of in-class COVID transmissions, which means our mitigation strategies are working. Since August 26, we have seen 15 or fewer reported positive cases among students at 85% of our schools, which is 102 out of 120 total schools and programs. Among staff members, we have had 167 reported positive cases since the start of the school year, which is less than 2% of our 9,000 employees. Much like other school districts around the region, we are balancing in-person learning for all students with the quarantine and isolation procedures that are established by the Ohio Department of Health. We want all students to be in the classroom with their teacher, but we must direct some students to remain at home. When students are at home, we want to ensure that they are still receiving their schoolwork and that their learning continues, even if they're well enough to do so. I encourage families to reach out to the school principal if they encounter any instance where students are not receiving their work while at home. These quarantine and isolation procedures are one piece of the mitigation strategies that we have in place to reduce the spread of the virus. We cannot control what happens outside of school, but we do have measures and strategies in place to ensure in-person learning happens safely for our students and for our staff. We're also working with our health partners to implement additional initiatives such as we are partnering with Columbus Public Health, Nationwide Children's Hospital, and Ohio Health to schedule student vaccination opportunities. This will be especially critical when the vaccine is approved for children under the age of 12. We will begin distributing free rapid COVID tests for any student or staff member in a school or transportation center who is symptomatic or a close contact of a positive case. We are finalizing a contract with an outside vendor to provide nursing staff to conduct our contact tracing. We know contact tracing can be time-consuming, and we are committed to allocating resources that will alleviate the ongoing process for our own school staff members. As you can tell, providing in-person learning opportunities amidst a pandemic is challenging, but our students deserve to be in their schools and in their classrooms as much as possible. We will continue to strengthen our current strategies and explore new ideas to keep our students and staff healthy and safe. Finally, I would like to recognize Dr. John Stanford, who is attending his final Columbus City School Board meeting tonight. Dr. Stanford has accepted a tremendous new career opportunity as he would take over as the superintendent of the Allentown School District in Pennsylvania. Dr. Stanford has brought so much to this district and this community over the past 15 years. We are appreciative of his tireless work in advancing and supporting public education in Columbus, and we wish him well in his new endeavors. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Board member questions? Board member Beckerly?
Thank you for the updates on the transportation. The call center slide, there was a category called service level. What does that mean? 48%, 60%, 64%.
Oh, the service level is the percentage of service that we are providing during that wait time. So 48% of the calls, so the people who had to wait at least 9 minutes
Right.
and 11 seconds was 48% of those callers. So we want the service level to be higher.
But the average time is, oh, so 48% of the callers had to wait 9 minutes.
Mhm.
Okay, so some were higher, some were lower.
Some are higher, some are lower.
Okay. I appreciate this data, and I guess I'd like to keep seeing it,
Continue to
because
go
I think
up.
it's important for us to show the community we're improving.
Yes, exactly.
So that, if we can continue with this kind of a chart, I think that would be great.
Thank you. And it helped too that we had some additional team members who signed up to,
Yeah, I was wondering if that
Yes.
strategy helped.
yes, tremendously.
Well,
Yep.
So we have gratitude to those people too.
Yes, exactly. Yep, they stepped up. Many of our support staff members stepped up. We have provided additional hours for them to do that, and they stepped up, and we've seen an increase.
And then on the bus driver front, I still would like to see or know, I mean, I know it's a bad situation, but like, where are we relative to where we need to be? You know, that number of what we need to be able to get there. You know, I know it's not good.
So back to our pre-pandemic number of
Or
drivers.
just what we need today. Maybe
Yeah.
it's even not pre-pandemic because we have that software now that's helping us be more efficient. But, you know, that number still seems to be, that's a relevant number to analyze, to really getting a sense of where we are. And then the bus bulletins, is that like some software where they can look it up and figure out where the buses are?
Yes.
That's terrific.
And we're piloting it and see, is Rob, if we can put Rob on the screen, he can tell us a little more how that works. Hi, Rob.
Good evening, everybody. So Bus Bulletin is our notification system. That is a text-based messaging system.
Okay, good.
The My Stop app is the parent tracking app, which we are rolling out the pilot very soon.
Okay, and my thought was, in addition to mailing, because that's not always getting to where it needs to go, is we had a little something we could hand out to the families of the buses, like the parents that are waiting at the bus stop. Here's the link, so they can get it quicker. Just another thought,
idea.
but that's
Okay.
not, that's it. That's all I got, thank you.
We will go to Dr. Pierce, then Board Member Cole.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dixon and team, for this report. I appreciate it, and I think our community appreciates it, given just comments that I've gotten in the last couple of weeks, that we did not give a report last board meeting. So thank you for giving a report. My questions do relate to transportation. And by this point in the year, is it possible for us to monitor our transportation the same way that we're monitoring our student outcomes? So in particular, the questions that AJ has us go through, is there a way that we can begin drilling down on this data? Because as I continue to get emails and bump into parents at games, at grocery stores, at gas stations, we're still not picking up all of our students. If they're not getting into the building, we're not progressing and moving our student outcomes forward. So my questions literally go to, who are our most vulnerable students when these drivers call off? Is there a certain region? Is there a certain school? Let's begin to really drill down and see, are there themes, are there commonalities around when these drivers are calling off, how it's affecting the drivers, and how it's affecting our students and families. When we drill that down, let's get to the what and really begin to explore, is it salary, is it the exposure? So can we begin to use the data to link our COVID dashboard with some of the call-offs that we're seeing, right? If there's a correlation there or not. Because at that point, we need to get to a point where we're explaining why this is happening. We know it's happening, but we need to explain why it's happening and how we're going to solve it. So I really want us to think outside the box and to begin to think how we can monitor the transportation that's occurring with our students. My next questions kind of relate to the next steps. I appreciate your team taking on the charge to go to the state level to think about the changes with the vans. You mentioned vans and cars, but there's also shortages that are occurring at our charter and community schools with buses not showing up for those students as well. They're still taxpayers in our district, so we're still going to have to answer to them. Will those same solutions be put forth to deal with the issues that we have for our charter and community school students, right? So I guess with the state solutions or the state requests that we're making, are they just for our students, or are they also for our charter and community school students? So I think us, knowing if we're the who we're representing on that state level is going to be important. So could you speak to that?
Yes,
or is that...
thank you. I'm going to be clear that we are advocating for all of our students because we're required to transport all of our students. So we are not asking for help with Columbus City Schools and not thinking about our charter and unplugged families. So this is for all the students who are transportation eligible that we transport to and from home.
My last two questions then kind of relate to probably more administrative stuff. When a bus fails to come and that student misses the day, what type of absence is that?
It is an unexcused absence if they are not coming to school that day. Yes.
So are there any policies, brief, that we can put in place to maybe make that an excused absence? Because it's not the fault of the student or the parent, it's the fault that transportation has not occurred. Yes. So we're potentially getting dinged, that family is being dinged, and then that's going to put us into truancy and attendance issues. So what can we do to kind of alleviate or address that issue in the short term?
Okay. Thank you. And I follow up, Dr. Klein and I just talked about this last week, the same concern, and we are having some other conversations about some next steps.
And then last but not least, when it comes to our bus bulletin, I have had some highs with bus bulletin alerts and some lows with bus bulletin alerts. As we continue to look at that software, are there any other measures that we can put in place to ensure that the lag time in communicating the gap between that pickup or that drop off is getting to the parent and caregiver more quickly? So we still have cases where parents are finding out delayed that their kids are going to come home 20 minutes late or 30 minutes late. How can we continue to shorten that time? We have cases where families, again, are finding out the day of that their bus stop time has changed. How can we shorten up those gaps and communicate more efficiently and effectively with our families through these software systems?
Okay. Thank you. I will follow up on that one, but I also want to go back to, just want to make sure that parents, if they would make sure that they call their school if the bus does not come and their kid misses school because of transportation, please make sure that they call the school and notify the principal or the guidance counselor that's the reason the student is not in school that day. That's important. I know they may be frustrated that the bus didn't come, but please make sure that they call, because that's the difference between an excused and an unexcused absent if they do not make that phone call.
So if they do call, we are going to mark it excused.
If they call, if the parent or the guardian calls and let it be known to the school that it's because of transportation, the bus did not pick the student up, then that goes from the unexcused to the excused.
Okay.
Yeah, but to your point is, we don't want the absence at all, right?
Yeah, but that's still
correct.
huge.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Thank you to you and your team as well.
Thank you. Board Member Cole?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Dixon. I have a question. Thank you for those series of questions, particularly the last two, Dr. Pierce, relative to transportation, because I too was also concerned, and you and I have had conversation about it, concerned about how are you looking at how we can possibly leverage in-building resources as that additional contact to families.
Yeah, I'm sorry. In building in terms of additional support team members who are
Yes.
called in? Yes. So it goes back to, we offered additional time, hours for the secretaries. They can stay over to make those calls. So we want to, the building principal, talk to the different support staff members who want additional hours to make phone calls to parents that is available to them.
Okay. Are we leveraging family ambassadors as well, or no?
I'm not sure I can follow up on if the family ambassadors are participating, but that's a good resource that we can use because we're excited. We have about 90 family ambassadors now. So the goal is to get 120. We have 90, so we've increased. So I would talk with the team to make sure that they are included in that, in this strategy.
I thank you for that. And my additional question is relative to our nursing staff, because I do understand the issue and concern around contact tracing. Are these new, is this private resource, are you looking at this as some sort of replacement to that staff or strictly assisting of that staff?
Well, we're looking at it in multiple ways. You know, one of it is we want to make sure that our school nurses are there to provide the supports to our students. You know, some of them administer medicines. They're there if students have, you know, if they're sick. But what we are finding is that they're using a lot of their time for contact tracing, et cetera. So we started first by alleviating one of the letters that they were sending out, and we decided that we would have that letter sent electronically to our families. And then we decided to ask our support staff if they would help with contact tracing, knowing that there would be a training piece. So we talked to Lois Carson and her group, and they said absolutely, and we have training underway. But we also are looking at some private entities who can provide the support, and it could be maybe contracting with organizations that hire nurses. But we are looking at other entities who can provide that support for our organization at this time, and it could be nurses from private organizations that provide that support.
That support, but not as a not as a full.
Not as a replacement.
Thank you.
No, they're providing that expertise, additional support to our organization.
I thank you very kindly.
Board Member Ragland?
Thank you for the report, Dr. Dixon. My question is around our mask protocols inside the buildings. From my understanding, we're having a difficult time getting our mask protocols to be followed with 100% fidelity. What are some ideas that we may be implementing that can help us get to students and staff wearing their masks throughout the entire day with the level of expectation that we require to keep all of them safe?
Wow, that's good. I would say that I've heard that students are not wearing their mask appropriately. I'd say I've been visiting, I was at 2 buildings. I was at East Haven Elementary yesterday, 400 elementary kiddos, and I was at Yorktown Middle School. So kudos to those staff and students. All of their students were wearing their mask. All of their staff were in their mask. And there were a few kids that may have had them on inappropriately, and you just look at them and just do this, and they push the mask over their nose. Also, I visited Hiltonia, same thing. So as I'm visiting schools along with the area superintendents and Dr. Chapman, we are seeing students that are following the requirements. Now, are there instances where principals and teachers are reminding kids? Absolutely, because our students have been in masks for a long time. But again, to your point, I see that the mitigation strategies that the organization has, they are working. That's why I wanted to display that data so the community knows that what we're doing is working. So if you want to remind your students to make sure you have an appropriately sized mask, I think some of the students, their masks are a little too big for their small faces. But those strategies are working. We have teachers that had on their, little notes on their boards, reminders. We're seeing more bulletin boards in our schools. So the strategies are working. So I would say let's just encourage our students to make sure you have those masks. Teachers are free in most of the buildings I've gone to take their kids on a mask break. It's because it's nice outside. And so, again, we want to continue to encourage that masks are part of our uniform. And that piece is critical. And wearing them appropriately is important. And we have to demonstrate that our adults wearing them appropriately, like we are. And so we're continuing to do that. We've actually ordered more masks. We've ordered some that are smaller for child's face because we know we got a lot of masks at the beginning of the pandemic. Organizations were providing masks for us, and it was one size fit all. And so we knew that we had to get some more kid size and kid friendly masks, and we've done that. So thank you to everyone who's reminding our staff, reminding our students, because our staff, again, I've not been anywhere where staff have not had their mask on and had them on appropriately. So thank you to our staffs. But they're reminding our kids to wear the mask and wear them appropriately.
Thank you for that. We may want to consider, or have you considered, partnering with some of our community partners to incentivize a culture that gets us to where we want to be with our masks. I think with the number of students and staff that we have, we can be a leader in making certain that mask wearing is at the forefront of all of our thinking. I know we've seen some events, major events, where sometimes some folks aren't required to wear the mask, but I think it helps us. And if we can get our students to to show some leadership in doing that, that may be something that we could think about using our Department of Engagement on. My last question is concerning safety and security at athletic events specifically. I know you spoke about safety and security, and we've seen some negative safety events over the last couple of weeks at some of our athletic events and some of the events that are happening where the public is engaged with our students. What are we doing to ensure that our safety and security at our athletic events is where we want it to be? And do you need assistance from the board in helping us to get to where we're putting on and promoting the safest environment for young people in the community at our athletic events?
Yeah, thank you. And I'll pass it to Dr. James in a moment to give us some specific strategies. But what we have been doing, as I stated earlier, our safety of our students is of utmost a priority. And what we've seen the last few weeks is that we've limited the participants at some of our games because we want our students, our families are coming to watch competitions. Our students compete, and we want it to be a family-friendly event. But we recognize that sometimes those events, disturbances that have to happen after the game are beyond our control, and we needed some additional resources. So Dr. James has been talking and meeting with the safety and security team on some strategies, and I'll let him just kind of talk through what some of those strategies are.
Yes, Board President Adair, board members, and Dr. Dixon. Some of those include metal detector wands for people who are coming to the games. I also asked them to look at that for basketball because that season will be starting up shortly. And then also the potential use we're investigating for private security to be more in the parking lot areas versus our security who are more where our parents, our students are, to kind of make some zones. So they're looking at some options in that regard to try and make those events safer.
Understanding that we have some of our schools with what I would consider to be inadequate lighting in our parking lots and some of the areas, particularly in our schools that are in more residential areas that are on the streets in some of our residential areas. The lighting is not conducive to a very safe event sometimes. Would we consider moving some of our football games in particular to daylight start times for our events to ensure that the safety of daylight kind of helps us have a safer environment.
President Adair and Board Member Ragland, I did have that conversation with Michelle Klein about the potential for rescheduling, but some of the referees also do some of the colleges, so it is difficult, but we have talked about that and we're feasible looking at that. Another thing I wanted to add is I sat with the Buildings and Grounds Department about conditions. We were actually talking about the armyworm problem, and it also brought up some other issues. So I do realize there are some issues with lighting, and it will be taking a look at that. And we'll also probably have to make that as we have these facility master plan conversations. That needs to be part of that conversation as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. James. Thank you, Dr. Dixon.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I'd
Madam
like to
President.
add, I believe we rent light towers to
Yes, ma'am.
some of the games.
Yes,
So I know
yes.
that's something Dr. Clarino and his team has been doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome, and just to piggyback, I see you, Dr. Pierce, just to piggyback on the lighting, I mean, it sounds like some of what Board Member Ragland was saying is on the city streets, so perhaps we need to engage with the city to figure out if neighborhood lighting is not
Yes.
sufficient.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Pierce?
Given some of the responses to the questions by Board Member Ragland, could we request a report that just tells us some of the solutions that are going to be put forth, so we have a chance to dialogue about that? When I hear metal detectors, our schools, we haven't had metal detectors at games and our events. And as a parent that's going back and forth between these games, that's going to shock me. And it's going to make me feel like there's a problem when in most of our games there's not a problem, right? But it will begin to promote that there is some unsafeness around our activities. And as a product of this district, I'm very concerned about how we transmit the look or the potential of a problem. I would much rather us also look at solutions to talk to our students about what's going on in our communities. I agree with Board Member President Adair. I think this is a community issue, and we have to sit our young people and our young adults down and really get at the bottom of what's happening with the power struggles in our communities and our neighborhoods. We as a school district cannot take that on alone.
Go ahead. Board Member Beckerly.
I think that I would like to see some sort of a report of comparing, and I'm not quite sure how we do it because it's not really apples and apples because of the COVID-related we're not having a normal season. But if you look at how much more of an uptick is there compared to previous seasons, and also during the school day too, like is this, where are we, and because a lot of this, at least unless I'm missing something, and maybe I haven't picked up on it, I feel like all of this is reacting to impressions. Seems like it's worse. It seems like it's happening more. It seems like we've had some problems, and I'd like to kind of know what the real delta is before we take any action.
Okay.
And I think the community should know that too.
I just wanted to take a moment and thank the nursing staff and the building administrators who are doing the contact tracing. I got the call, I got the letter, I talked to our nurse, thank you, Nurse G, getting help and understanding what it meant for my student to be in quarantine. They're 6 feet apart and I put the barriers up. It's tough, it's such a hard situation. And I know that Nurse G had a lot of families to call, and she really took a moment to answer my questions. And so I personally appreciate that. And also just the letters, and I mean, that was not our first letter. It was our first quarantine, but not our first letter. And I just know how hard it is on our staff who have so many things to do. but know that it's really important. And as a parent, I appreciate it. And as, you know, one of your leaders, I appreciate the effort that you are doing. And I know we're going to work on getting help and getting you back to those really essential things that we want you to do for our kids in that health space. I also want to give a shout out to Miss Fiddler, who called me or emailed me to remind me that my daughter had work to do on quarantine. So again, our teachers are really going the extra mile on World Teacher Day to make sure that our students who are in this situation are doing their work, and that's the important thing. You know, we're not going to get through this unless we stick together. We have to hold each other accountable. That's our students too. You see your friends not wearing that mask right, you tell them. We don't want to go on quarantine. It's really no fun to stay home all day. We like to be at school. We like to be with our friends. And so we just have to do this as a community because we are still in this as a community. So I just want to give my personal thanks to the people that personally impacted me and my family through this, and just a general thanks to all the rest that I know are doing the exact same thing. So thank you so much for your report this evening, Dr. Dixon, and to the members of your team. All right, let's go ahead and move into going to our internal auditor. Hello, Auditor Smith.
Good evening, Board President Adair. I'm just waiting for my slides to come up. There we go, thank you. Vice President Reyes, members of the board. On September 23rd, the Audit and Accountability Committee met, and if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. We met, and it was a short agenda, but it was a very impactful meeting. So I'll just briefly go over the highlights of what was on the agenda. So the first thing was an educational session. This was our first time doing this. We had a new committee member, so I thought it would be a good type of onboarding for him, and to also to just kind of go over what the Office of Internal Audit does in relation to controls, risk, and compliance, and also to go over management's roles, the board's roles, and the external auditor's roles in those same areas. The next item was the introduction to the OIA Staffing Progression Form. And what I was trying to do there was to get feedback from the experts on the committee as far as what type of competencies internal auditors should demonstrate to progress to different levels through their career here at the district. So this is my first time showing this to the committee. I'm hoping to get feedback, incorporate that feedback so the staff knows what they have to do to progress, and then there's also a framework for our succession plan. The next item was our normal internal audit activity dashboard. And what that does is just basically goes over the activity that has happened in the office at the end of the month. So this meeting happened in September, so we went over the activity that happened up through August 31st. Next slide, please. The final subject was a risk management report from the operations side of the house, and they are aware of their challenges. So we just wanted to have them come to the committee and talk about those challenges and what type of mitigation strategies they have in place. You know, you heard a lot about transportation, the driver shortage. There's also supply chain shortages. We're also in the middle of a pandemic, so they are wide-eyed about those challenges, and they brought forth some of the mitigation strategies that they are looking at to help deal with those challenges. So like I said, it was a short agenda, but a very impactful meeting. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chair Ragland or Vice Chair Beckerly to see if they have anything to add to the committee report.
I have something. Okay. Could you go back to the first slide? Because I think this was kind of an interesting discussion. The 3 lines model overview. And I would say stay tuned. We're kind of investigating this further, but it was a real insightful methodology or model, it's a model, for it was sort of like lines of defense of risk is what those lines are referring to, and very intentional. And we talked a lot about the risk not just being operational or financial, but also risk associated with not achieving our mission. And so I think that we're hoping to continue thinking about it and refining it, and so stay tuned.
Great.
I certainly would like to thank Auditor Smith and her entire team for a great meeting. I'm really impressed with the alignment for professional development that we discussed, and looking forward to getting those competencies back from the other committee members so that professional development for our OIA team can be aligned with those competencies. We will be able, once this is fully fleshed out, we will be able to see where each individual member of the OIA team is within their professional development, and then line up, here's the competency, here's where they're going to get the PD, and start to see their progression. And it really is a brilliant way of determining what a succession plan is going to look like internally in that department. And I just wanted to give you kudos for presenting that to us, and for thinking of that strategy. With that, Madam President.
Thank you. Are there other questions for the internal auditor or Dr. Pierce?
Thank you so much, President Adair. So my question relates to the risk management. In the various directors and departments that came to you with those particular areas of concern, on the part of you and your department, are you all then helping them to research some additional solutions and helping them with approaches to tackle some of those risks, or is it just merely oversight once they kind of bring the risk to your attention?
We're doing two things. If it's a situation where we know an audit will not be beneficial because something is not in place, so there's really no point for us to go out and do an audit, we're doing what we call a consult engagement. So that way we can do the research and see what the best practices are, see what some of the norms are in the industry, and then work with them to come up with ways to identify the risks and to strengthen the controls. And then once they get to that point where they have implemented the recommendation from that consult, we'll give them time to actually let it get established. Then we'll come in to see, okay, how are you doing in this? So to answer to your question, yes, it's not always going to be an audit. There are other ways that we can go about and help the departments identify, the best way to deal with some control weaknesses, or to help them identify what their risks are, what they should be considering as far as mitigation strategies.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Additional questions? I'm excited about this consulting. I think that this kind of approach, and I know that you and the superintendent are currently working on some of that. I think that will strengthen the organization. You have really fantastic people on your team that can really help us in these areas. So I am all about the preventative, proactive approach to auditing and really, really strengthening us. I also want to say kudos on the succession planning. That's something we've asked all of our direct reports to consider because that also strengthens our organization and allows for information to continue when people leave, obviously. So, thank you for that, and really taking, it sounds like a very unique approach, maybe something we even consider in other lines of our business model where it makes sense. So thank you for that, Auditor Smith.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, over to the treasurer. Hello, Treasurer Behork.
Good evening. Thank you, President Adair. No report this evening, just a reminder. Finance and Appropriations Committee meets a week from tomorrow in this very room. 4 o'clock.
Don't be late. All right. Any comments from the co-chairs of the Finance Committee today? All right. Let's go ahead and move into item 7, which is board matters. We're on 7.1. We have the second reading of amendments to Board Bylaw 0169.1, public participation at a board meeting. I'm gonna turn it over to Chair Brown of the Policy Committee.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I think everybody knows that we've been working on this particular policy for some time now. It's policy 0169.1, dealing with how we work with the community and how we work with the public when they'd like to address the board. It's important to us. We want to make sure we do it and that we do it right and we do it fairly. So we've approached this with all those things in mind, knowing the importance. We had a subcommittee take a good hard look at the policy and make a lot of recommendations that are included, and that we do recommend all of those unanimously. I had hesitation on some of them, and I'm on board fully with that. What we, after the last presentation, which we considered our first reading of all of that, we did again seek comment from board members to anything within this policy, and we got 4 amendments proposed. So I want to kind of run through those to make sure we are all on the same page. And if it's okay with everybody, I would like to run through all of the amendments before we get to moving any particular amendment. If that doesn't work, then please just let me know. Let's see. Right. Well, I can do this in part. Let me do by amendment. The first one, Amendment 1, simply takes out the words "in order to," and this is in the 5th paragraph on the first page. And it will now read, if that's adopted, "to permit the fair and orderly expression." Also, at the very end of the same paragraph, there's a suggestion of inserting a sentence that reads as follows: "The board encourages speakers who wish to comment about complex issues to mail or email written comments to the board liaison for board members to review before the meeting." And I don't know who suggested each of these amendments, but I think that is a good idea, providing just a better opportunity for us to understand the issue, as well as for gathering information if necessary, or even resolving the matter before it comes to the board itself. Amendment 2 is simply in the very first paragraph. At the very end of the first paragraph, this is the one that starts, "The Board of Education recognizes." And at the end of the paragraph, simply adding a sentence that says, "The board will not accept comment on a matter that may come before the board for an administrative hearing or on a matter because of its nature is deemed appropriate to be discussed in executive session." Amendment 3 pertains to almost everything I think is on page 1. This is in the first set of letters, ABC. The first one of those, the subcommittee had wanted to delete the words "and address," so that participants are simply giving their name. And this amendment would add to that, along with their name, that they would provide their affiliation with Columbus City Schools and their city of residence. Amendment 4 covers quite a few places, but it's a good, simple amendment, and that is to strike out the words public participation. Because, and I agree with this one, the public isn't participating in our discussion, in our meeting, but the public has, what we want to provide is the ability to comment, to address. And we have split that up into two parts. The first part, at the front end of the meeting, where people should have the opportunity to comment before we get to an agenda item so that we can factor in what it is they have to say. And the rest is that for items not on the agenda, if they want to address us, it's later in the meeting. And I don't think I need to go through and identify each and every place where the word public participation will be made public comment, changed to the words public comment. Those are the amendments that are before us now. Now, the policy, as I said, went through its first reading. This is the second reading. After we act on the amendments, we can choose to proceed and adopt the new policy going forward. So,
Hold on.
You need to move and second the policy first before you can consider the amendments.
Yes.
You have to have the policy on the table in order to amend.
okay. Do we have a motion to
So
approve
moved.
the policy?
Second.
Okay,
All right.
Are there any comments or questions about the policy as submitted by the subcommittee? Board Member Ragland.
Yes, on its face, I feel as if the policy is limiting public participation in the board meeting. And I'm interested in hearing from you all why you feel the policy needs to be changed overall. I mean, we're taking the word participation out and including comment, which to me implies that there can be no dialogue between the board and whoever is speaking. For me, I have a problem with that. I do not feel that the public has access enough to us. And these are issues that are concerning their children. And, you know, I feel a bit disheartened that we would be doing something that would not give the public, i.e., our students, our parents, our staff members, even more of an opportunity to engage with us on issues that are important to them. And you know, we have not had a public discussion about this. And so I'd like to hear from my colleagues what your thoughts are, particularly around participation, where we are not going to be able to engage back with the public if they have comments that they've made. And then also on non-agenda items being moved to the end of our meeting. I understand that oftentimes when we do get public speakers, they are parents. Many of our parents have multiple children. If they are taking time out of their day to engage the Board of Education, I'm under the impression that we should be making it as easy for them as possible. And oftentimes, if you just logistically think about a single mother of one that would come here, or a single mother of three that would come here and engage with us, but maybe it's not on an agenda item, they'd have to wait an hour or so. before they could speak on their matter. And I feel a bit disheartened by that. And so I would really like to hear what you all believe is the purpose of changing our public comment policy.
Thank you for those thoughts and feelings. We have Board Member Beckerly and then Board Member Brown.
I think the answer, or my take on it, is that engagement and meaningful participation and the board meeting process where we do it are two separate things. I very much agree with you, 150%, that we need to make sure we're available to the community. And I think one of the things that we're hoping to initiate very soon is some sort of a structured process where we're going out to the community, engaging with them on a regular basis. And I think to answer the question, and certainly we can do that, it's a little easier to do that with stakeholders and groups. I think if we're really good at what we set up, we'll be doing it regionally in buildings even, so that we're going to, and that will be on us, as AJ says, we have to go out in twos, so it's not a campaign, at least in twos. And it would be a major commitment on our part to do meaningful engagement. So I think that it has to be both. And then I think that's a forum, or that's a venue, or a situation where we can really have meaningful conversation. In the board meeting is not structured for that, and I'm not sure it's the place for that in terms of the back and forth, because it's easy to get off agenda and then we're talking for hours. And the second thing, but it's on us to make sure we do that second step. And then the second thing that I think about, to your point about the parent that comes with the parent of 3, and we put them at the end of the meeting. With any luck, not with any luck, this other strategy will make it more convenient for that parent because it is a non-agenda item. So it's not particularly timely. So if there's something that they want to talk to us about that we're not voting on, and we have periodic engagement sessions throughout the community, and I'm not talking like once a year, I think like 2 or 3 times a year actually, but certainly 2. That makes it easier. And then, other boards do other things, maybe before or after me. I don't know. There's other ways that, there's one board I know of that I think they have, they sit at tables at some point, like once a month, and everybody can come and talk to them. Like they just have a community afternoon, like on a Saturday afternoon or something. So I think there's other things we can do. And so I think it's, unless we do those other things, I'm much more concerned about your point. But as long as we're doing those other things and we're committed to it, I think that this will facilitate a better process at our meetings and better engagement for the community. And I'll stop talking now.
Board Member Brown.
Thank you. First, I agree completely with Carol and everything that she had to say as supporting the change that we're proposing here. It also, I think these changes comport very well with the suggestions and approach that we're now taking with board meetings as suggested by AJ, and we've been working on that. Part of the goal is to make sure that we're focused on education and scholarship and academic needs. Part of the purpose is to make sure that our meetings are efficient. And I think, Carol talked about it, but, if there are lengthy portions of the board meeting that we engage with the public beyond hearing from them, I think we can truly get bogged down and have some of the very long meetings that we've had in the past. And third, importantly, and this is something that I've learned and an approach that I've had through 20 years of school board service, always with this kind of program, and that is sunshine laws require that we meet in the public. That's an opportunity for us to conduct our business and the public having an opportunity to observe that. It doesn't go any farther, the legal requirements, and James Barnes is on and will correct me if I'm misstating, but I've always understood it to be a place for us to conduct our business with the public having the opportunity to see everything, and for us not to be able to conduct any business whatsoever outside the public's eye. The concept of public comment is not required, but we think that it's important. I think that it's important, and want to give people that opportunity, even though in many cases their issues are administrative issues, and they're probably better off dealing with them administratively once they get into the hands of the proper person. And I know many of the calls and emails I get is just a matter of, redirecting them. And I have confidence that the folks that receive those are going to do what they should, handle them properly. But having conversations at board meetings does not make sense. I think the ideas, and there will be more ideas about how to engage the public, truly engage, things that can't be done in this setting, are important and providing opportunities to do that. For myself, I have always in my public career and other settings, my phone number is available publicly to anyone. My email address is available. I get plenty of email and calls and texts, and generally I respond. When there are hundreds on the same issue, those are tough. So that's my rationale, James.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Board Member Cole.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues, for weighing in on this policy. As we worked through, even as subcommittee, through this policy, there were 4 words that kind of came to mind, tops 5. The first is efficiency. The idea that this gives us an opportunity to, and I think Board Member Brown illustrated some ways and aspects of that, but efficiency to our meeting and to our discussion. Secondly, order or structure. If you look at, particularly even if it's just, I want to say Section 8, Clause I think it is, or if you look at Clause I, presiding officer may. This is that structure and order part that gives us the opportunity to waive the rules if necessary. So, for example, if there were some reason, and I'm not as much of a hardliner, I value, like all of us, public comment / public participation. I'm kind of questionable on the public participation because every bit of what is submitted to us in public comment is public record, number one. They are offering their feedback as comment to us during a meeting. To me, that is participating in the meeting. But it's neither here nor there. I'm happy with either. I'm not going to necessarily debate that. It's not a hill for me to die on. But what is efficiency, order, access. We are not denying access. We are ordering access. We are trying to make it as efficient as possible. And then lastly, action. They get the opportunity by coming to us. I will always encourage, whether they can get to me by phone, email, or by presenting to us in front of the board their concerns. To me, now that's our call, our administrative call towards action toward that issue. And we have a behavior in this school district since I've certainly been on the board. We got to get orderly here on that one. But since I've certainly been on this board in my tenure, I've seen us actively take actionable steps towards issues to resolve them, and more often than not, that happened right then and there after the comments of that speaker. So for me, I want to make sure that we have efficiency, order, access, and actionable steps. I believe that this policy helps us do that effectively and manage the process in a way that is fair, objective, and intentful towards resolving that problem. Yes. And as you've heard AJ say, and you heard many of us say at the table, because someone comes here and makes a comment, it more often than not cannot be resolved by us. It just can't be. And that's just another backup to what Madam Beckerly just said, Board Member Beckerly just said a few moments ago. So with that, efficiency, order / structure, access, and action. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, do you have a comment? No. Please call the roll. No, sorry, my parliamentarian is waving at me. Do not call the roll.
We've got amendments.
Got the amendments.
Oh, now we have to
now.
do the amendments. I'm sorry. All right, back to Board Member Brown. We will go
Aye.
through each amendment. We have to vote on each one of the amendments separately before we vote on the amendment as submitted by the subcommittee.
Unless the board would like to take them all together.
No, they really want us to do
One at a
it one
time.
by one.
All right, that's fine. Amendment 1, which deals with the change of striking in order and having the 5th paragraph start to permit. And secondly, the word meetings at the end of the same paragraph following that sentence, having this read, the board encourages speakers who wish to comment about complex issues to mail or email written comments to the board liaison for board members to review prior to the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Cole and Pierce. Any comment or discussion?
Questions?
No. Please call the roll.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
That motion to amend passes.
Thank you. Member Brown.
Let's see, Amendment 2. Back to the very first paragraph. At the end of that paragraph, this amendment proposes adding a sentence that reads, quote, "The board will not accept comment on a matter that may come before the board for an administrative hearing or on a matter because of its nature is deemed appropriate to be discussed in executive session."
Now I have a question. Is that okay?
Well, hold on. First, we need.
We need a motion and a
motion
second.
and second.
So moved.
Second.
The moved and seconded. Now, Mr. Cole.
As a point of clarification, is this a redundancy, so to speak? And Dr. Roush might be able to help with that, or Misty. Is this a redundancy on our part when we have, the G codes of Ohio Revised Code that give us clear directive as to what to go into executive session for? Is this language necessary or not?
Yes. Oh, I think so.
That little thing, I think, is.
President Adair and Board Member Cole. I'm not an attorney.
Play one on
So
TV.
that also gives people a chance to jump on if they want. This, I believe, is something that the State Board of Education has as part of its procedures.
All right.
In short, the statute governs when you can go into executive session and what those topics are. What this is saying is that those members, you don't want to hear, what this is saying is that public comment will not be on those topics for an administrative hearing or those for which you may go into executive session, i.e. we're not going to necessarily, that's not going to be something that if I came to speak to you would be a topic which I could speak to you about.
And can I jump in? Because I am an attorney and I did submit this to the attorneys. This is my amendment. And yes, so it really is aimed at avoiding conflict because we are ultimate decision makers on some of the admin hearings. Like we are the judges,
Correct.
right? And so we don't want undue influence or appearance of conflict.
Gotcha.
And so that's what this is aimed at, to really kind of just put into policy. And so the State Board of Education, they have something similar to this as well. And so I gave it to James Barnes to look at, and he thought it would be good practice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that clarity. Call the question, please, Madam President.
Oh, I don't need to add
Okay,
to
he
that.
called it, so, please call the roll.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
No.
Mr. Ragland?
No.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you, Board Member Brown.
Amendment 3. This is the one that if you look at the very first page, at the first letter A, where name of the participant needs to be provided, name of the speaker, and we may want to change that word to speaker. We're going to include affiliation with Columbus City Schools and City of Residence.
I second.
Pardon?
That was a motion by Brown, second by Pierce.
Yes.
Any discussion or comment? Please call the roll.
And would this include changing the word participant to speaker? Or we can do that in the,
That should be a separate
That
Other-
takes,
one. That should be a separate one.
No, it would not include that.
We'll include that.
Yeah.
all right,
Mr. Brown?
yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Board Member Brown.
And finally, Amendment 4. And I should say finally before we address the package. Amendment 4 simply wants to strike out the words public participation wherever it appears and insert instead the words public comment.
I second.
And I have a list and can identify all of those places,
Not necessary.
but I don't think it's necessary.
So do you make a motion?
I seconded already.
Oh, okay, Brown motion, Pierce second. Any comments or questions about this Amendment 4? Please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
No.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes,
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. We
I do
have,
have one further amendment to offer,
okay,
and that is, I move to amend the word participant in A on the first page to speaker, which I mentioned just a moment ago. In addition, in J at the very end of the policy, where it reads the portion of the meeting during which the public, in which the participation of the public is invited, I would suggest that we change that to during which the public may comment shall be limited. And also, there is another word, participant, that appears in item F of the policy that, again, may be changed to speaker. And beyond that, as we're cleaning things up, if we come across participant elsewhere, I think we should change that to speaker or to, and public participation to public comment. So
so,
with that, that's the amendment I move.
so
So,
friendly restate of you are suggesting that anywhere it states the word participant in this, you would like it to be changed to speaker, and anywhere inconsistent with the amendment we just passed, it states public participation to
Public
public
comment.
comment. That's okay.
Yeah,
Is
in
that a-
addition to that, it was simply some minor rewording to read better in J.
Okay, does everyone understand? All right, that's a motion.
That's a motion.
I second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
No.
Vice President Reyes,
Yes.
President Adair,
Yes?
Ms. Beckerly,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes?
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
That motion
Okay.
carried.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, now we're back to looking at the whole package now with the amendments we just approved and what has been submitted by the subcommittee. I know Vice President Reyes now has a question or comment.
Yes, I apologize. Board Member Brown, Board Member Cole reminded me that I didn't realize when I read the policy. In a few iterations ago, we had, and it may have been a prior version, when you're talking about action, we used to say the administration will return or get back to you within X amount of days. We've talked about that a couple times. We mentioned it. What would be reasonable? So when Cole said this has action, I don't see action in our policy here as far as sometimes President Adair has to say, well, somebody will get back to you. And if she doesn't remember, the speaker kind of standing there. So I don't see that here. I don't know if it should be addressed now because obviously you may need some conversation. But I think the action piece is missing, or the response piece to the speaker is missing in our policy.
And, you know, if I may respond.
Go ahead.
I think that we may be better off not trying to do that because, one, the nature of comments that are made here, many of them don't require a response. It's just that somebody would like us to know something or hear something. Some of them are obviously going to be addressed by somebody on the staff, by Dr. Dixon or otherwise, and some of them are actually assigned on the spot. And I think that we need to be flexible enough to respond in an appropriate way every time. Doesn't mean that we're going to do it because we're not going to do it then and there. But I think that it's always, you know, if something's needed, we do it.
Ragland, Beckerly, back to Reyes.
I was gonna
Cole.
say, can I finish my statement?
Oh,
yeah,
for you?
please,
Yeah,
please,
I was gonna
yes.
I still would recommend that we look at something only because in many meetings, I see our, Board Member Brown, I still would recommend that be looked at only because I would say for the last several years that we've moved into the Neola policies. I see the president always kind of, the speaker kind of looking, and I don't like assuming. Flexibility, I'm fine with. It could be a statement that, you know, to a discretion, there will be a response, but I just feel something to look at. I'm not saying that it needs to be changed today, but I think we do need to look at it just because I've seen, especially the last several years, I've seen President Adair kind of say, well, somebody will get back to you, or even the superintendent kind of looking around, just to be clear with our speaker. Thank you.
Ragland? Oh,
If I may, I think it is worth looking at and considering, and I think that the committee can do just that, but I'm not sure that it's ripe without a whole lot of discussion
Correct.
for tonight.
Correct. Thank you.
And
Ragland?
yes, thank you. And thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Chairman Brown. I want to be clear, does this policy mean that when we have public speakers that make public comments, that the board, by this policy, is not allowed to respond to the speaker at all?
No.
No, it does not.
It is my discretion as your chair, the presiding officer, to allow for interaction with the speaker if that is deemed appropriate.
So,
So my thought right now, which I want to, we can talk about as a procedure question, not a policy question, is that for agenda items, you are allowed to ask clarifying questions. And for non-agenda items, it will be just a comment unless there is some sort of vast misstatement or misrepresentation that immediately needs to be clarified. And then we can interact with the speaker. So that is my thought process at the moment.
okay, so for clarity, it is solely the chair's discretion on non-agenda items for board members to speak to the public commenter.
Yes, because it is not part of our board business meeting.
And then for the agenda items, when the public makes a comment, the board will be allowed to ask clarifying questions only on agenda items, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
As before.
Are you finished, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Okay, board member Beckerly.
I don't have anything.
Okay, board member Cole.
In the spirit of what my colleague just said, in order to make sure that we do put into accountability some measure of response in a timely manner. The language that just came to mind was, where reasonable to student achievement and safety of students and staff, the superintendent shall provide an appropriate response within 48 hours. So is that time frame amenable, particularly if this is something germane to student and staff safety, so on and so forth? If it's not ready to be commented on now, so mote it be. We can certainly take it back and work something out, but.
I think Board Member Brown said that you all will take it back.
So mote it be.
Dr. Pierce?
I appreciate the opportunity to be able to take that back and talk through that, and would like to request that an administrative representative appointed by the superintendent attend the meeting so we can determine what's the best way to add that into the policy and if it's necessary. I don't want to create additional constraints or a jump response just because we want to respond to people and it not be actionable, accurate, or efficient. So I would request that. And then I have one additional question.
I do have something.
It's come to my attention from a variety of community members. We serve community members that are hearing impaired. And on some of the platforms that we use, we're not getting accurate closed caption, and we're not getting closed caption on some of them. And so as we think about public comment and engagement, we also need to be mindful that we're ADA compliant and that on our virtual platforms, our information is accurate and it's there. And that when individuals come to our actual meetings, we've also put mechanisms and tools in place to promote their engagement for public comment.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, and I'm sure that, I mean, I'll have to look at it, but I'm sure that we have our appropriate ADA statements on all of our public comment websites. To that point, if someone does need a reasonable accommodation in order to participate, such as a sign language interpreter or otherwise, that they know how to make that request. That is a Title II requirement under the ADA, and I'm sure our attorneys are making sure that we are 100% compliant with that.
So if there's an additional action item I would like to add for our subcommittee is that we review and we look at that. And that compliance, I would also request potentially Dr. Blue or somebody appointed by the superintendent, because we want to make sure that it's not just our students that are families that are hearing impaired, but also that have language, distinct languages that they're speaking. So our English learning families as well. If we need to have interpreters that are here and present, that we have them available.
So I didn't actually hear a request for an amendment. What I heard,
Yeah.
okay, what I heard was that you still want to think about this and maybe bring back additional amendments or changes later, but this subcommittee is recommending that we go ahead and do the vote, right? You're not asking for a table. Okay, that's what I understand. All right. Any other comments? Okay, now we are going to vote on this item as amended. Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
No.
Vice President Reyes,
Yes.
President Adair,
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you, subcommittee, and thank you for more work on this policy.
And
And
if I
thank you to
may-
those who are going to be, are the engagement side, that are going to be working on really making that engagement something that is actually tangible and real to our families in a way that, really supports them. That's what our goal is, and making us more accessible out into the public. So thank you for that future work that this board has committed to doing. All right, thank you.
And may I
Yes.
briefly, I
Mhm.
just want to thank not only the folks on the subcommittee with me, and that was a good session we had and helpful, but also all of you who have contributed input to this policy. At least during the time that I have been in this role, I've not had anything where we got such good participation from all the board members in the process, so thank you.
Thank you to our staff. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move into item 8, the consent agenda. This evening, our consent agenda consists of item 9.1 to 23.3. Are there any items that any board member would like to remove from the consent agenda for separate vote? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? Are there any items you would like to discuss? Board Member Beckerly?
I just wanted to highlight 12.4 and 16.1.
Okay, hold on, 12.4.
Yes.
Authority to enter into purchase service agreement with Waterford Institute.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this contract and the effort that it entails in terms of providing pre-K instruction to some of the families that aren't necessarily attending our early childhood program. And I think it's really targeted engagement and targeted instruction, and I think it's probably going to move the dial, and it's certainly designed to, so I just wanted to applaud that. And 16.1,
Authority to enter into a service agreement with community initiatives.
same thing along this lines. This is also some really targeted engagement to wrap our arms around attendance issues and coming up with strategies and teams. And, I read quite a bit of the details surrounding this that was provided with the agenda, and I think it's really exciting work, and I'm happy to see us starting it.
Thank you, Board Member Berkeley. Board Member Brown?
Yes, just briefly, wanted to make sure to publicly acknowledge the very nice gifts that have been made in item 22. There are 3 of those, and to make sure that we also follow up with our written appreciation.
Already done.
Wonderful. You're on it.
And those are just because you said them. Item 23.1, authority to accept a donation from Office Depot, Office Max. 23.2, authority to accept a donation from the Clinton Elementary School PTA. And 23.3, authority to accept a donation from Big Lots. Any other items? Congratulations, since we're just doing, today we're doing shout outs from the consent agenda. Where is it? Where's my graduates? Where's my graduates? We got some 22 plus grads. I just signed your diplomas. Congratulations. I don't know I can't find the number really quick now. But congratulations on earning your high school diploma. We are so proud of you, and it's never too late. It's never too late to get that piece of paper. So congratulations to all of you, and I still can't find it.
12.6.
Oh.
No, it's not. Never mind.
It's somewhere on here. There's what? There's 5 of them. 5 graduates. Do you want to read their names? Do you have them? You just signed them too. 12.5. I found it.
You got it, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Read their names. I don't have it. I don't have it.
Tamiria Wilson, Nita Adris, Lanita Brandon, Joseph Elkins, and Lakeisha Williams. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you. Actually, we've talked to the superintendent about maybe doing some sort of ceremony. The Department of Education is really asking us to do that for those adult 22. Think about it. Okay, any other items? All right. Please call the roll.
Vice President Reyes,
Yes.
President Adair,
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Dr. Pierce,
With the exception of 12.1, to which I'm abstaining, yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. All right, we will now move into public comment on non-agenda items. This evening, we have 3 individuals who will be addressing us. 2, I believe, are virtual. Ms. Nichols, looks like you might have the first caller ready. We have Mr. Elijah Coleman, who is a 6th grade student at Woodward Park at Walden. His topic is COVID-19, and he wants the board to consider his ideas and his solutions. Ms. Nichols?
President Dare, the speaker's on the line.
Hello, Mr. Coleman. You have 4 minutes to address the board.
Good evening to all board members. I would like the board to consider my concerns and solutions on the coronavirus safety agenda in Columbus City Schools. I also feel unsafe due to the lack of security measures for COVID-19. In the compact hallways, I rarely see social separation reminder stickers on the ground, and staff rarely enforces social distancing, causing students to be bunched together. Also inside the classroom, students are sat at a table with a partner with no divider separating themselves or their partner. Masks are commonly worn with negligence and worn below the nose. Both I and Nationwide Children's Hospital believe that since the district is fully equipped with dividers from the 2020-2021 school year, the board should return the dividers to schools to ensure safety inside the classroom. The district individually, Dr. Dixon, should instruct school administrators to require all parties inside the school building to wear masks above the nose and enforce social distancing. Some may ask why I made the decision to go in person this year. I attended online academy for 2 school seasons and wanted to enjoy my first year in middle school in person. It is well documented that people with weak immune systems are at greater risk of getting infected by COVID-19 and dying from it. It is a grave fact that makes it crucial that the district enforces COVID-19 recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Coleman. Your comments are so important to us. I know the superintendent was listening, and just, even though this goes against what I said, I'm super proud of you as one of our students coming before us to advocate and express your thoughts and opinions, and know that this board truly appreciates that, and we are listening to you. So thank you so much, Mr. Coleman, for sharing that. And the superintendent may get back with you, or actually one of your building administrators may get back with you. Yeah, she's shaking her head. I don't know if you can see that.
Thank you.
All right, we have our second speaker is Stephen Hardwick. He's here in person. Topic, communications with Transportation Department. He wants transportation to start providing timely and accurate information to families about bus routes. Mr. Hardwick, good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thank you, President Adair and board members. First of all, what I'm not going to complain about is, I know COVID makes things a lot harder. There was a bus shortage, driver shortage to begin with. The routes are going to be less convenient than they've been in the past, and they're going to run later than they have in the past from time to time. And I expect that as a parent. I understand that. That's the price we get for getting our kids from home to school every day. But, I just say it's a Herculean task, but it seems more like a Sisyphus task, twice a day, pushing the rock up and it just comes back down. And they do it all over again the next day. And thank you. But the problem is getting notices of changes. My daughter's high school route has been changed 4 times, significant changes. The first time we got a notice of it was yesterday. And it was handed out by the bus driver. So if you're on quarantine, you don't know. Now you say, well, check parent portal. Oh, we checked parent portal, and he said, oh, it changed. My daughter gets to sleep in an extra half hour. Great. So she shows up a half hour later. The bus showed up the time it said before. Well, we called in and said, oh, no, that doesn't start till Monday. So, okay, Monday, she goes in. It gets to sleep a half hour. Nope, comes back around 6, the same time before, about half an hour early. call into the call center. I literally had someone call me back, a special call back around lunchtime and said, oh, the bus, you have to have your kid there at 6:18. A couple hours later, someone called me and said, no, 6:50. And we found out that the parent portal changed it back 10 minutes, moved it back 10 minutes, but it's still, we did that because we check the parent portal every day. We get notices of a gazillion things. I guess one thing I just ask is to push those notices out through the parent portal and to make sure that when you change it in parent portal, that the bus driver actually changes the time. And we're lucky that, and we're a one-car family. Sometimes most of the days we can supplement and take our kid when it's been late. Some days we can't. But for the most part, we're lucky on that. And I have to say, my experience calling into the call center, I don't know if I've ever gotten in under 10 minutes, ever. I don't know. Maybe that's just because I'm calling before 7 o'clock and it's longer before 7, but usually it's 15, 20 minutes. And sometimes you get cut off, so you have to call back again, because it's, especially if you use a cell phone, so it's a 40-minute call. I guess the only data on that I give is if they could use text messaging, might be a little more efficient than calling. But my main point, and I'll try to leave with a full minute left, honoring the new 3-minute limit, is please just push out notices to parents. Let us know when the routes have changed. And we need to have someone we can call to tell us authoritatively when the bus is supposed to be there. All I want to know is when you hope to have it there. I know it's going to be late sometimes. Just let me know what your plan is. And I thank the board for its time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hardwick. I'm sorry for yours and a lot of parents' frustrations with this. I know that our new chief of operations is busy writing and may snag you after the meeting to maybe learn a little bit more. And thank you for sharing these firsthand experiences with us that you and your family are undergoing. And again, apologize for that frustration. Thank you so much. Okay, our last speaker is Alicia Westerviller. Her topic is transportation. She wants the board to find a better solution to transportation, and I believe she is virtual. Yes. Ms. Nichols has the caller on the line.
Yes, President Dare, the caller's on the line.
Thank you. Ms. Westerviller, you have 4 minutes to address the board.
All right, thank you. Thank you, board members. So I guess listening to the previous speaker, I'm kind of along the lines that he is, as well as notifications to parents about when the bus might be there. Also, my daughter's bus route, there has been days where there's not been a driver at all, and my daughter has stood at the bus stop, which is about 4 blocks from our apartment, for 2 hours or more just to come home. And I work from home, so I'm here, but I can't take off work to go take her to school. And I called. Getting a hold of the transportation department is a nightmare. I know the previous caller mentioned something about calling, around 6 a.m. It doesn't matter what time you call; it's a nightmare to get through. I've sat on hold as long as an hour to speak to somebody from the transportation department just to be told there's no bus for my daughter, or the bus hasn't arrived yet. I mean, right now it's 7:19 p.m. and my daughter still is not home from school. Her bus, she is a charter school student, so she goes to KIPP Columbus, and her bus, I got notification from KIPP that her bus didn't arrive and leave until 6:22 p.m. She's going to be lucky to be able to get homework done this evening and take a shower and go to bed at a reasonable hour, just to get up at 6:50 in the morning, walk to her bus stop, and wait for a bus that may not come. So frustration is high, and with a lot of us parents. And I understand the bus shortage. That's not an issue for me, is understanding that. The issue is there's no notice to know whether or not my child is going to have a ride to school, or if I'm going to have to fight to have those absences excused, because I don't want to be caught with truancy charges, and my daughter's not getting an education. So I've actually had to contact the principal to ask about my daughter being virtually schooled on the days that the bus does not pick her up. So definitely a notification solution would be excellent, like the previous speaker said, just so we're aware if our child's going to have a ride to school, or if I'm going to have to find her a ride.
Uber doesn't pick up kids under the age of 18 because I've tried, just for them to cancel the route. Like, I've tried to make other arrangements and it's just not been possible. And me leaving work I just got off unemployment. So I don't have that option to leave work to take her to school. So, I would hope that there would be some sort of at least notification solution, and similar to what the previous speaker said also. And I thank you for your time. That's really all that I can say.
Well, thank you, Mr. Westerviller. Again, that's just totally not acceptable. I don't think anybody in this room thinks that that's acceptable, that your child is not home right now. That's not acceptable. And so I apologize for that and the frustration, and the team is working hard to try to figure it out. And I know that someone will get in contact with you, and because you are with one of our charter partners, it's probably a three-way conversation there. But again, apologize for your frustration, apologize for everyone's frustration with this, and I appreciate you, again, coming to share your personal experiences with us. It does help us put things into context and understand what is really happening on the ground. And everyone that's been emailing, we get a lot of emails about transportation as well. I continue to share those, continue to share your frustrations. That's why we're here. We can't fix it if we don't know to what extent it's happening. And again, I just want to apologize and tell you how unacceptable it is that your child is not home right now. So we will work on it, and you have that commitment from us. So thank you, Ms. Westerviller, for that, and taking the time out of your day to share those comments with us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, board members, that ends our public comment on non-agenda items. And we have no executive session. So the only thing we have left to do is adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
A second.
And without objection, the meeting is now adjourned. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you.